Welcome back, my friends. I am still looking, as you can see, at the mechanics that have been changed, altered, amended and extended. Let's look first at the situation with regard to fuel. And I've got the fuel lined up here. In this chest we've got black coal, charcoal and brown coal. Now, I have always done my forging with brown coal. That's been fine for me right up to meteoric iron and not a problem. However, I don't think we're going to be able to do that in future. If we hover over the coal, it gives a burn temperature, the brown coal, of 1100 degrees centigrade, burn duration 77 seconds. The black coal has a burn temperature of 1200 degrees centigrade and a burn duration of 84 seconds, and charcoal has a burn temperature of 1300 degrees centigrade with a burn duration of 40 seconds. So this goes up from 1100, 1200, 1300. Now there's another statistic in here. I think those basic temperatures must be when it's in a fire. And I think that when you put it into a forge, because here it says forge temperature modifier, and this looks as if you go down 100 degrees. So it will only burn at 1000 degrees in a forge. I hope I'm right on this. And then the forge duration bonus takes you up by 120%. The black coal has a forge duration bonus of 150%, and the charcoal has here we are, a forge temperature modifier of plus 50 degrees centigrade. So it's interesting because this says it's got a temperature modifier. This has a temperature modifier of 50 degrees, and that is 150. Very interesting. So different types of coal. My reliance on brown coal may have to cease, because it looks to me as if for some of the metals we're going to need black coal or charcoal. I mean, that's no surprise, but everything depends on the quality of the fuel now. So having had a look at that, let's have a look at the quenching next, I think. Now we have instructions on tempering and quenching. So let's look at H for tempering. Here we are, or quenching and tempering. Now, it says ferrous metal, iron, meteoric iron and steel tool and weapon heads can obtain extra properties if properly quenched and or tempered. Non-ferrous metals cannot gain bonuses or penalties from these processes. So let's not try to temper or quench our stone tools. And it says quenching can be done with or without a layer of fire clay being added to the item. With clay, the durability will be improved. Without clay, the power level will be improved. So you have a choice between durability and power. Successful quenching can only be done starting from a certain temperature range, as shown in the tooltip of the item. When the item has reached this range, you must shift plus right mouse while looking at a block of water or barrel of quenchant liquid. As of 1.22, water is the only valid quenchant. I believe you can use seawater as well as ordinary water. You must swiftly bring the temperature down to below 100 degrees centigrade. Quenching does cause stresses in the metal in the form of a % chance to shatter if quenched again. You can quench an item in an unlimited number of times, but the shatter chance will go up consistently. While the benefits gained will decrease in magnitude each time, the shatter risk only applies to quenching, not tempering. After quenching, the bonus obtained will be shown in the tooltip, as will the number of times this piece was properly quenched. If the item shatters during quenching, some material will be lost. Wow. And tempering, it says the tempering process is used to reduce the shatter chance that quenching adds to the item. Similar to quenching, the tempering process involves bringing the workpiece up to a specific temperature range and then cooling it. It differs from quenching in that the temperature is lower and the rate of cooler must be slower than quenching. Allowing the item to simply cool in the air whilst held or placed is sufficient. Successful tempering will reduce the shatter chance slightly. If your tempering improves the durability of the blade, that durability will remain unchanged. However, if your quenching improved the power will also go down slightly. Right, the shatter chance will go down more though as a percentage of the total. One cannot temper an item more times than it has been quenched. I find that very interesting. I would love it to say whether tempering is just putting it in a forge or whether you have to bang it with a hammer. I've seen blacksmiths temper in both ways, I think, but I'm not an expert on blacksmithing. This needs more investigation by me. This is so much we have to learn. Let's put this on the forge and let's light it. And then we want to take it to just over 550. Now you can see the temperature going up. Let's give it a whoosh. Yep. And what I must do is get some tongs before I get myself into trouble trying to handle this without these tongs. Right, where are we? Let's heat it up a bit. We need at least 550. Right, let's take it out and let's see if we can quench it. Has it quenched? It has, I think. A little bit more. There we go. Yep. Now, quenchable at that temperature. So we're fine. Now, if we look at an axe, and we're using iron, yeah, let's see what the axe, no, I don't want that. I want an iron axe. Okay, and now we will compare the two, I hope. Just want to stick. Right. So, let's see if we've managed to quench this. Right, have we any difference between the two? Maybe not. 900, right, 900, tool tier 4. No, I don't think I have managed to quench this satisfactorily. That doesn't surprise me at all. This is a new thing to do. So we're going to have to really look at this in some depth. At the moment, it's just not working properly with regard to my abilities. So let's pop that back. Okay, but I mean, that's basically what we're going to have to do, but with a bit more knowledge, I think, with a bit more knowledge, which is as one would expect, really. And the days of being able to warm up, you know, meteoric iron ingots with brown coal, I don't think is going to work anymore. So I think we're going to have to get used to what fuel we use with what different ingot in metal type. So I think that's something that's going to be a bit more complicated. I can see myself having graphs on the wall, and I'm sure that the wiki will sooner or later, and probably sooner, produce charts for this, which we will all get used to very quickly, I know. So that's how it's all going to work. Look at this. We now have a grinding wheel, and these can be made. Let's go into H. So we want to make a grinding wheel. We would make it with a grindstone, planks, a wooden axle, and some nails and strips. Now the interesting thing is that when I look at these grinding wheels, it doesn't say so here. So you have to have a piece of rock, a hammer, and a chisel. But it does say that it sharpens tools that are used for piercing and stabbing. So I think it mostly means swords or daggers. I don't think it's going to sharpen axes, because I've tried and it won't. But it says that a sharpened weapon adds critical hit chances at the cost of durability, and it also says that the quality of the stone affects the grinding wheel. So I've got a black bronze sword. So how do I do this? Shift. Oh. Wow. Let's just shut that down. I want to have a look. Actually, I want to have a look at this. So it says attack power sharpened to plus 1% critical hit chance. Wow. Okay. And the durability, I've not hit anything with it. We've lost 1 durability, but we've gained 1% critical hit chance. So let's try that again. I have to shift. Right, where are we now with this? Sharpened to plus 3 critical hit chance, but we've lost 3 durability, so it's a straight 1-for-1 swap as far as I can see. You know, that's going to help me a lot, because I'm not that great at fighting, but having the ability to hit something and kill it, because a critical hit is just basically a one-hit kill. I mean, that looks fantastic, so we can buff our swords at least. I wasn't able to buff an axe, but let's have a look. No, I can't buff the axe. I think it's only the piercing and the stabbing instruments. Wow, that's pretty nice, isn't it? For someone like me, that's going to be a real help, actually. So I quite like that. So we can buff that. And frankly, I would give up some durability for that. Now it takes me straight back to the methods of making watered steel that was made with Toledo steel, and the Japanese used it, where they would put a blade continually into the fire, they would then hit it, they would then put it into the fire, they would then hit it, they would temper it, and basically they would fold the metal again and again and again until they got this beautiful, beautiful watered steel. I am not going to try to even get to grips with that at the moment. I think it is enough to know that it exists. I do love the grinding. I think that's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I think these grinding wheels are great. But again, the better the quality of the stone, the better the grinding. So again, the quality of materials is coming through in all these new processes. Now this is work in process. I know that the gears I showed you earlier, the spur gears, I know that these are work in progress. They look like cogwheels to me, and I really can't work those out yet. And also apparently we're going to have in-wall axles, which should be fantastic. Now I'm just starting to feel my way into this. I think the bellows are great. They're perfectly easy to mend. I'm not yet sure about how it operates with this, and I think this is something that's going to become more apparent. Sharpening works brilliantly, as does this beautiful grinding wheel. I'm loving that. I think that all those are brilliant. Now I think what we've got to get to grips with is this interlocking of the type of fuel, the amount of bellows you use, and then the amount of quenching and tempering you use. So I think this is going to be a very, very complicated thing to get to grips with, and I think that somebody ought to prepare some papyrus with this that we can put on the wall, because if not, I'm going to be putting a series of signs on the wall. But I think a papyrus with it all laid out would be perfect in my view, because I'm never going to remember all this. So my friends, I think this all looks very interesting. I don't think there is anything here that we can't get to grips with. The one thing to remember is that if I run a big windmill at full tilt and start gearing it up with the big large gears, if I don't use, I would say, more modern kit that they're putting in, second level mechanics I would call it, because you've got four-way iron hubs here, so we've got all these different things, and what an axle needs with a four-way iron hub I do not know. That's going to be interesting to find out why it's got that, because it's not obvious to me at the moment. But I think we're going to have to, I think they're in the process of getting some more stalwart gear that perhaps has a lot of metal in, so that when this thing goes at full pace and we get it going, it should, I think, create enough power to set basic wood on fire. Something to look forward to. But I'm liking the look of all this. Some of the processes already I'm comfortable with. I'm actually quite, I didn't like the look of the new forge to start with. Now I'm keen on it. So I like all the new tools. There's a lot about this new mechanical stuff that I really, really like, but it's going to take some getting to grips with, and I can't give you a full tutorial at the moment because I'm only just having a look at it myself. Also, some of this is work in progress. My friends, if you have enjoyed this, please leave a like, consider subscribing to me. Bye bye.